Hello and welcome to the Dwelling Place Media Team training video. If you're watching this video, first I'm going to say thanks for being part of the media team. It's not as hard as you think. It's actually pretty simple, and hopefully you'll be able to understand everything in this video. But this video is going to be a short, just kind of overview of everything that you need to know to operate media for a Sunday service or any other service at Dwelling Place. But this is not an exhaustive video, so you will need to shadow one or two different times on a Sunday morning or at another service, and just get behind the computer and work with the programs yourselves and get to know them, or even show up to church one day when nobody's there and just kind of play around with it yourself. But yeah. So without further ado, we're going to start. And the media team is part of the worship team, which consists of sound, media, and then the band. And as part of the worship team, our goal together is to create an environment that can really help foster worship and just help the congregation into a space of worship for God. And it's not a job, it's not a duty or anything. It's really an act of service towards everybody else there at church. And so really, when you're on a Sunday morning, we want you to have the mindset of you're actively participating in worship. You're not a bystander, you're not doing a job, but you are actively participating in worship. And there are going to be some things that you can offer creatively in media to help worship, and you can put your own spin on things within limits to be part of that. So just like the band expresses worship with their instrument, you're going to be expressing worship through your instrument, the computer. And there's just subtle ways that you can do that, and it really is just an act of service. And remember, our act of service, living act of service, it's a type of worship as well. And so if you ever get in the mindset that you're there, you have a duty or an obligation, then maybe it's time to take a break. Really, we want to be servant-hearted in this and take joy into this. And so that's kind of the basis behind the worship team. And so now I'm going to move over into the computer and start showing you things there. And so here we have ProPresenter, and ProPresenter 7 is going to be running on a Mac at church, an iMac computer. And so if you're unfamiliar with a Mac computer or an Apple computer, I'm just going to go over some very quick basics for you. This is my computer at home, but it'll be very, very similar there at church. So when you take the cursor of the mouse, I can highlight that for you, and take it down to the bottom. This is the dock, and on the dock you're going to have your most frequently used apps, and they're the ones that we put there. And so really you're going to use ProPresenter, you're going to use your audio MIDI setup, you're going to use your email and some internet browser. There's going to be Safari and probably Google Chrome there. And that's pretty much all you're going to use on a Sunday morning. But you will sometimes run into problems where you need to change some settings and stuff like that. And so you want to check some of the system preferences, and those are up here at this apple. Go down to System Preferences, and at System Preferences, you're really only going to mess with two things. The first is your displays, making sure that they're set up correctly and that they're connected. So click on Display, go to Arrangement, and you'll be able to see what displays are connected to your computer. At church, we're only going to have just two here, but at home here I have 3 screens, and you just want to make sure they're at the right arrangement and that they're connected. The next thing that you might work with is the sound, and you can go to sound just to kind of see if you have something coming in. So here I have my input on the microphone, and just make sure it's going to the correct output. But it's better when you're working with audio to go down here to Audio MIDI Setup. It's the piano looking one. And at church, you want to be connected to the PreSonus audio box. And when you right click, you just want to make sure that you select use this device for sound input and use this device for sound output. And what the audio box does is gets the sound from the mixer over on the sound booth to the computer and back and forth. We don't want to use the built-in microphone or anything like that. And so those are really the only two kind of system preferences that you'll work with. The other thing on the Mac is the Finder. So this little smiley face down here. Let's say you're looking for a file, or you're looking for a different app, or you're trying to find something. Finder is where everything is at. You click on Finder and you'll see your documents, your recently downloaded, where movies and music are, some pictures are. But really, at Dwelling Place, you're really only going to have to be concerned with if you recently downloaded something, if you save something to your desktop, or in Documents, because in Documents is where the ProPresenter files are stored, and that's what you're going to have to work with. The last thing about getting used to an Apple computer is the mouse. So I'll show you a little video here from System Preferences. You're going to be using a mouse just like this one here. This is called a Magic Mouse, Apple's Magic Mouse. And this mouse does not have a physical wheel, it doesn't have separate buttons. It's a touch kind of screen mouse. And so if we see here, when you scroll, you're going to place your finger on it and move it up and down. There's no scroll wheel. You just are touching with your finger and moving up and down. There is a right click, even though there is no right click button. You just have to click on the right side of the mouse, and the whole top of the mouse clicks together. And then another gesture that you'll have to use is using two fingers to swipe between things. And I'll give you an example of that. So for instance, this is ProPresenter, and let me pull up, web browser. This is logged into Planning Center. If I make this full screen, I can use two fingers and not tap, but place them on it and swipe over, and I go from one screen to another because this has taken up its own screen off to the side, or a virtual screen. It's not taking up a physical screen to the side, just a virtual screen. And so if you do make things full screen, it's going to take one of those up, and you're going to be wondering, how do I get back and forth without having to click on a thing down here? You just take two fingers and swipe over. And then the other thing you do is take two fingers and tap, not click, but tap. And that brings up this kind of look where you get to see all your different, if I had different windows up, you could see all the different windows here in the middle. And then you see the two windows at the top where your programs are that you're running. So if you press escape, you can get out of full screen mode. Press escape. So I'll just get out of that. So that's really all there is that you'll need to know about operating an Apple computer. Your most frequently used apps that we store in the dock are down here. If you need to find any file, application, or document, it's in the Finder. If you need to change system settings to make sure that your displays are right or your audio is right, you can go to System Preferences using the Apple up here. Or if you need to change your audio, going to the Audio MIDI setup at the bottom. But again, nothing you should ever change unless somebody accidentally unplugged something or something like that. So really, you won't have to remember that. And then the biggest thing to remember is just using two fingers. You can swipe back and forth between applications. Using two fingers and double tapping, you can see all of the windows together. And you scroll just like normal, but there's no scroll wheel. You just touch the mouse. So that's really how to use an Apple computer at its simplest. If you've never used one before, I really do encourage you to go into church and just play around with it and get a feel for it. And so now I'm going to go into ProPresenter. Now this is ProPresenter 7. This is the program that we use to run the slides and everything on a Sunday morning. And ProPresenter 7 is brand new, and so we're still figuring some things out, but for the most part we have it all set now how we're going to use it. And so first I'll go over kind of the layout and buttons of ProPresenter. And so up here we have, file, edit, presentation. This is where some nitty gritty stuff is at. If you need to figure out your preferences and go into more stuff for ProPresenter, you hover over ProPresenter and go to preferences there. But for the most part, again, unless somebody changes something for some reason, you really shouldn't have to mess with any of the internal settings. It's kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. You really just have to worry about operating ProPresenter. And so the different buttons, you can do a universal search. So if you're searching for a song or the title of a presentation or notes or a Bible verse, you can do a universal search here. The next is text, where you can change the text on the fly for the song that you are currently selected on. And then theme. Themes are just preset kind of fonts and sizes and everything in a nice package for a specific slide. So we have ours set to worship. We'll have a worship theme and then a lower thirds theme. Everything else is a theme that we don't use. I really should go in and delete those so they're not a distraction. The next is show. So if I were in any other window or screen, whether it be edit or if I'm looking at a Bible, when I want to get back to the actual show of what I'm showing, you just hit the show, which is a play symbol. Then you have your edit. So if I want to edit this song here, click on edit, brings up the editor window where you can work on the background. You can work on a bunch of stuff to edit the slides, but really this is where you would drag and drop and rearrange slides and then do global changes to the text. Reflow editor is just a very quick way to change the order of the song. So if this one was listed chorus, pre-chorus, bridge, whatever, you can easily switch it back and forth and give it hotkeys so that when you press a specific number, it jumps to that. Bible is pretty simple. That's where we find the Bible verses from. And then there's more, but really we don't touch really any of those. We stay pretty simple with the setup at Dwelling Place. Next is timers. If you wanted to add a timer for something, we don't really use those either. Messages, we haven't started utilizing those at all. Except for it's now time to go pick up your children, which we haven't used in the time of COVID. But there is a preset message that we have on the computer at church that says, now it's time to go get your children from childcare. And then props. And we do use props, but I'll get into that later. Don't have to use stage. So those are the real big buttons at the top that you'll need to worry about. And it's really just these two right here, show and edit and add Bible whenever you need a Bible verse. So those are the buttons. And now we'll talk about the layout. So up here is you have your different libraries. So we have Planning Center library, which I'll talk about later. Then we have the lyric library where all the songs are stored. A presentation library where we put all the notes and teachings from people who come and speak on Sundays. And then Bible excerpts, where if we save Bible excerpts, we can keep them there. And then under that, you have a playlist. So here I have an example playlist, but in reality, on a Sunday morning when you go in, you could have a playlist with your name on it so that your settings are kind of there and you have that for that Sunday and you're not messing up anybody else's. But that's going to change here shortly because we're going to start to use the Planning Center integration. But that's where the playlists are out. Next, you have your search window down here. So if I need to search for a lyric, I click on the lyric library, and then I can start typing in, what's the song? Let's see, Waiting Here For You. And so you just start typing and it shows up, and then you can click on it and drag it into what playlist you want. So if I want to add it to my playlist, I can drag it up there. Or if I want, I could right click and say add to my playlist. Then in the middle, this is where you have your, oops, sorry, I'm still in Bible, so I need to go to show. This is where you have your playlist all laid out before you. So I'm in example playlist here. I have my announcements and 3 songs and then some teachings, and they're all laid out here. And I can scroll up and down all between them. And you can change the layout, and I'll get into that later. Then over here in the top right, you have your monitoring window. So you can see what's happening on the projector. And then let me put a background with some text. You can see what's happening in the projector and then also what's happening on the stream feed because we are sending this live over a stream to people online. And if you're dealing with a moving background or a video, it shows the progress of that here. Let me go back to projector. The progress of that here. We can add an audio playlist for some music, but we, again, don't use that function. And then here you have your layering, where you can clear different layers. I'll get into that later. And then your 2 buttons to make things live or turn them off. So if I wanted to turn off the projector feed in the church, I just click that, turn it to red, and nothing's going to the projector anymore. And that's the basic layout of ProPresenter. And so everything you need is right here before you, and you just need to worry about really show, edit, Bible, and then understanding your playlist and where everything's at. This is how you view everything that you're going to be working with. This is a monitor for it all. And then the last thing that I forgot to cover is just your media. So how do I get this background in here? How do I get other videos and stuff in here? That's stored in media, and that button is over here at the very top right. And then it brings up this window at the bottom, and this is where the media is. And to get rid of it, you just click media again, and it's gone. So that's the basic layout of ProPresenter 7. Now I'm going to talk about how we set it up to get one screen for inside for the congregation there, and a separate screen that looks different for the people viewing online. And we do that by configuring screens. So if you go up to screens, go down to configure screens. Our first screen is a projector, and then our second is an OBS. That's the program we use to stream online. And so we have two screens. But as you can see here, in the top left, our projector screen does not show the same thing that our stream feed does, and that ProPresenter symbol will show up every once in a while. It's because I'm not using the paid version here at home. This is the free version. But as you can see, the projector has a nice pretty background, and the stream feed has a lower thirds, just words only. And that's because we want the camera feed from the camera in there to show what's happening in church, and then to put the words below that. We don't want to put the background and nobody sees what's going on. So how do we differentiate the two? So first is we set up two different screens, like I already showed. We have projector and OBS is what we call them. And then we change what is sent to each one via looks. And so we have here our three looks. We have default, video, and countdown announcements. Those are the only three looks that we have. So default is the one that's currently running. Default is set so that any video or background that's playing, so this here, is going to show on the projector at church, but is not on OBS. And it also allows lyrics to show up on both, but on the projector, the lyrics are going to be full. And on OBS, the lyrics are going to be on the bottom thirds with a black bar behind them. So that is our default view, our default look. The next look is video. And so that's when we want to play a video. We want the video to show up for the OBS feed and for the projector at the same time. And so if I come down, or if I go to my media, and we'll just use kind of a background video, our countdown video as our example video. Now you can see it's showing up in projector and OBS the exact same way. And then the next look is countdown announcements. And we use this one specifically for our countdown announcements. The reason we use a countdown now is for people viewing online. The video starts going live before we actually start to give people time to go find it and get ready to watch the video. And the countdown just helps them know that the video is running, it's going, and there's a set amount of time before we get started. And so for the countdown announcements, I'll click it and get it started. You can see that there's a countdown on the feed, but there's not on the projector. So it's kind of the reverse of the default. So we have the video on the stream and not the projector. And then we have our announcements full size on the projector and lower thirds on the stream. And so those are our three different looks, and that's how you are able to get different things to different screens. And when you want to edit looks, or if you need to change one, or you have some situation where you want to differently configure what's being sent to each one, you again go up to screens, go to edit looks, and this is where you can edit that. You can create a new preset. So I'll do that, call it look one. So this is where the projector is, and this is what OBS is, and you can turn off and turn on various counterparts to that. And so that's, again, how we get different things to different screens. And that's very important to know, and we'll go over that a little bit later on what some good tips and stuff you should have. But first, I'm going to go into more about ProPresenter 7 so you can understand later how to better adjust the looks. And so now I'm just going to, let me stop this from playing. Go back to this main screen. And now I'm going to go into how layers work. This is very important because this is really the basis of what makes ProPresenter, and it's very, very different from like Keynote or PowerPoint. And this is what makes ProPresenter so good and versatile for presentations at church and stuff like that, because it has dynamic layers. There's different layerings to different things. And so if you look up here, we have our layering panel. And so if I were to click this countdown announcement, and I'll let you see here what's happening on the stream. We have a prop that is being used. We have a media background that's being used. And when we click on our announcements, we also have a slide that's being used. And so what Layers does is allows us to turn on or turn off any aspect of those different things at one time without having to turn everything off and then one thing back on. So for example, our prop that's being used here, I'll go to all screens again. Our prop that's being used here is this top part. The stream will begin shortly and the dwelling place logo. That is a prop. And so if I want to get rid of just that, actually I'll leave it on this big screen. If I want to get rid of just that, I'll come here and say clear props. And now just that portion is gone and the rest still remains. Let's say I want to keep the announcements going, but for some reason we got delayed and something's happening at church and the countdown is finished, but we're still not ready to start. I need to get rid of just the background. I can do that by clearing just the media background, and then the announcement slides are still going. And if I want to bring back the prop, I can bring back the prop just by clicking on it. So go up here, bring it back. And then if I want to bring back in the countdown, I click on it again and it brings the countdown in. I have to restart the slides. And if I want to get rid of everything all at once, then I just come to this big bar here and I clear all. And so that is how layers work. And other layers stack on top of each other. So if I click the background, it's at the bottommost layer, which means that anything else that I turn on besides that is going to show up on top of it. And so that's how the layering system works. Now I'm going to talk about backgrounds and media. So I'm going to open up the media bin here. And this is where our media library is in this bottom left. We have moving backgrounds, we have still backgrounds, and then we have countdown videos, and then some miscellaneous things. And so again, we know we have different layers now. And so how do we add backgrounds and change backgrounds and then get them going? It's really simple. First, you click on what you want to find, or not click on it, but you figure out what you want to use. And let's say we want to add a different background to this song. This is the song ABBA. We'll just use this one here. What I do is I click and hold, and then I drag it up to the front of the presentation, and then I can right click and delete the old one that's there. Now when I click on it, it'll make it live, and there we go. We have a background. And then click on the slide and we have the slide going. And so that's really all there is to media and background. Let's say that we wanted to add a movie and play a video for a Sunday service. Let me get rid of this. We'll use a countdown as an example. If I wanted to take this video and show it on a Sunday morning, I can put it in a presentation, but if it's just playing by itself, I can drag it up into my playlist, click on it here, and then hit play, and it's good to go. Now, let's say that was a pre-recorded service or something, now it's playing. But there's a different way to do that. For example, let's say there is a pre-recorded message because we are in a pandemic. We probably might have to go to not being in church a few more times, and then we're going to have a pre-recorded message. So let's say we had a pre-recorded message and we want to get words to show up on top of that. If we simply drag this video up and play it from here and then move over and try to put some slides on top of it, they're gonna bump heads. They're not going to want to work together well. So the way we fix that is we put the media into a presentation of its own. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to come up here to File, and we're going to say New Presentation. And you want it to be the same size as the projector screen, which is 800 by 600. Theme doesn't really matter, and then which library do you want to put it in? We're going to put it into a presentation because that's where teaching notes and presentations go. And we're going to hit, I'm going to name it and hit New. Then I'm going to come over here to my editor to edit it, and I have this one slide. I'm going to go to this plus button, and I'm going to say Add Media. And I already have a new countdown video on my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that one and bring it in. And so now, if I go back to show, I have here the background video as if it were a real background, and I can go back into editor and I can add some text. So I'm going to add a new slide. I'm just going to put testing there. So when I go back, I can start the video and then I can put notes on top of it. And so that's how you would get videos to play with words together. Otherwise, again, if I just dragged it into my playlist, they're not going to work together because they're seen as two different entities and not under the same presentation for the layering to work. And so that's backgrounds and media. Now we're going to look into actual songs. And so songs, if I go back to my example playlist, here's a song here. Songs have, just like I created in that test, they have a background in there, and then they have a group of slides behind that. Let me clear it all. And that's what creates a song. And so to edit it, again, you go to editor, you can change anything you want here. You can select all of the text, make changes to the text, and then if you want, you can copy that style and paste the style to all of the slides all at once. And so if we need to import new songs, there's a couple ways to do that. The first way to do that, and probably the most reliable way to do that, is to go into File, go Import, and we're going to import from Song Select. Now, Song Select is a service that has a bunch of songs in it. They're from the song artist and from the publishers, so you know that the lyrics are correct. They're split up correctly, and there's no errors. And so in Song Select, you would type in a song. Oh, wait. We'll just use ABBA as an example from Jonathan David Telford. We're already on it. We'll just replace it. So you click on that. It's going to bring up the lyrics to make sure that you have the right song. You're going to say import. And again, this is very important. You want to make sure that the size is the same size as the projector, 800 by 600. And your theme, we always use the worship theme that we have, just so all the songs look the same. You want to put it in your library of lyrics. And then since you're importing it for a Sunday morning, you probably have your own playlist. You can add it to the playlist that you want. And so I'm going to import. Now, I already have the song ABBA in here, so it's going to ask me if I want to use the existing one, use the new version, or write it over. I'm going to write over it just to make sure everything's perfect with that song. And so that's probably the number one way that you want to import a song. Now, let's say you look in Song Select and the song isn't there, and you have to Google it. So we'll go to Google. And I'll look up the same song, ABBA by Jonathan Helser. Chords, we'll put in lyrics. Let's see if we can have a better chance of that. So here we go. We found the lyrics. So now that you found the lyrics, you can either copy it and then go to ProPresenter and import from copied text from clipboard. But it's better to open up a file. So we're going to use TextEdit. And we're going to paste into TextEdit. And the reason I say this is better is because anytime there's a paragraph break, you can make that automatically turn into a slide. So here I'm going to put a paragraph break here, here, there, there, and there. So if I save that as ABBA on my desktop just for now, when I go back into ProPresenter, I go to Import from File, click on ABBA, import it. Now, paragraph break, that's what's going to make per slide. Make sure it's the same size as the projector. Make sure your worship theme is the right one. We're going to put it in lyrics, an example playlist, and you hit import. But I'm not actually going to do it. And it would add the slide in there, add the song in there. And so that's how you import new songs or add new songs. Now, let's say it's a song that somebody wrote and their lyrics aren't available on Google. What you would do is open up a new text edit file. Again, you can find text edit. It's one of the ones we use semi-commonly. It'll be at the bottom there. You type in the lyrics manually, save the song however you want to the desktop, come back to ProPresenter, import from file, find that file, and import it that way. And that's how you get new songs into ProPresenter. Now the next is adding new media into ProPresenter. And so I kind of went over that already. Now media can be videos that you're going to play, or they can be backgrounds or pictures. And when you want to add new media, you figure out which playlist you want to add it in. So I have a countdown video saved that I'm going to add. So I want to go to my countdowns, come down here to the plus, and you want to find it from Finder, because remember, Finder is where everything is at. And I saved it to my desktop, so I have it here. I'm going to import it. I'm going to write over the old version I had, and there we go. I have a new video in the media bin. And so now you might be wondering, okay, great, I have songs in here, I have medias, I have all these different things, but where are they actually stored on the computer if I need to go in and make sure that's there or add some other things? And that is all stored in Documents. So if you, again, go down to Finder, go to Documents, go to ProPresenter, and here we have our libraries. And so we have our lyrics library. So these are all the ProPresenter files. So when you import a file, it converts it into a ProPresenter file. We have all of our presentations. We have our Bible excerpts if we have any saved. And then media, we have our media library. And they're all in assets. So this is not split up by playlist like the libraries is, but it's all here. And then it has our playlist preset. Our playlist also saved. It also saves themes in different files and presets and everything else. So if you have a theme from another church that you want to use, you can save that file and bring it here to Dwelling Places. And so that's kind of it for Dwelling Places, kind of setup of what we're going to do. I'm going to pause here and get ready and get set up, and where I'm going to show you kind of some new stuff that we're going to work on. Okay, and so now I'm going to show you a new feature that we're going to start using at Dwelling Place, and that's the Planning Center integration. And so Planning Center is the program that we use to schedule everybody on the sound, band, and media teams. And that's also where we put the songs and everything for that day's service online so that everybody knows what's happening. And so normally what would happen on a Sunday service is when you get in, you'd have to open up Planning Center. Open up Planning Center, you'd have to log in, and then go to the Sunday service that you're looking for. And then one at a time, you'd look at each song, and one at a time, you'd have to add it to your playlist. But now with the integration, you can add the entire thing by one click of a button. So you go to the library up here, click on Plus, Planning Center Service. We are the NRV Church. We're looking for a Sunday service. Here's our next Sunday service. Click it, and then all at once, all the songs that you need for that Sunday are in the correct order. Now, the one thing it doesn't do is add new songs automatically for you. So here we have a new song, Dancing on the Waves, but it did add a placeholder. So now we just have to import this new song. So again, import a new song. Our first method of choice should be Song Select. File, Import, Song Select. It's going to be Dancing on the Waves. And I know that it's this version. Going to import it, make sure that it's the right size for your projector. You're taking it to the lyrics, and unfortunately you can't add it to this playlist of the service, so we just say none. So now we go back to this service, we click on where it needs to be, go back to lyrics, we're going to search for Dancing on the Waves, click and drag it over, and there you have it. Your entire worship set list is already set and ready to go in order for that Sunday service. Now, again, this is something new that we're going to start doing at Dwelling Place, and it's only going to get better and better as we start using it. For instance, as you can see in this new song that we have, it's already listed out with verse, chorus, verse, bridge, and that's pretty much it. Now, if the band already knows what order they're going to do the song in, they can manually enter into Planning Center which order or arrangement they would like of the song. They can put that in there, and that arrangement will also import for you. So the correct arrangement of the song and the correct order of the song will be in there, not just the slides and in any random order. Along with that, any videos or teaching notes or files like that that need to be presented during the service will also be downloaded at the same time. So like I said, this is something new that we're doing. There's none of those files in Planning Center right now for this example, but if they were, we have it set up that when you do add the service, any of those files would go to this new Planning Center library. So that means if you need a video that you're going to show on that Sunday, rather than having somebody bring it on a thumb drive, bring it in, you put it in, and then you have to import it manually and then put it in your playlist, if they already have it in Planning Center, when you import this new service from Planning Center, it will be there as well. And so this is the newest feature that we're going to use, but everything I've taught you to this point is still the exact same. This is just one way to get all the new songs and content in with one click of a button. Now I'm going to go over the last final details that we have, and then get into the part where you can have the most kind of creativity and addition to the service. All right, so this last section I'm going to talk about is our guidelines, and this is the same things that we have to like to have for everybody that comes in, but within those constraints, that's where you can have your creativity and start to show and be really a part of the worship on a Sunday morning. And so I'm going to go back in here to ProPresenter, and the first thing we're going to talk about is font and size and outline. And that's, again, we have themes here, and so it's pretty much done for us every single week. But we just need to make sure that our songs are in line because our database is still being updated. There's some really old songs with some really old things happening. So if we stick here with this example from the new Planning Center song, or Planning Center set for this coming Sunday, if I click on this song and then I come over to theme, go to our worship theme and click on it, it's going to update it to make sure that it has the correct font, size, outline, and everything. As you can see here, here's another song. Or let's move to the song that we just imported. We imported it with that theme already set. So if I do this and I click on the theme and come to it, there should be absolutely no change. And there is no change. And so what you want to do is make sure that every single song gets the updated theme to it. So you make sure the font is the same, the size is the same, and the outline and shadows are the same. So you just highlight all of them, and you highlight all of them by clicking the top one, holding shift and clicking the bottom one, come up here to theme, and click on the correct theme. So I'll just show you how it actually works. I'll give you an example, and I'll go to lower thirds. So if I click on this one, the theme just set so all of them are lower thirds. So let me put that back to worship. There we go. And so you can either do it that way out here, or if you'd like, you can go into the editor and select all the slides here. And you can right click, go to themes, and click on the appropriate theme. Now our theme here, what we use all the time is Helvetica Neue, and we use a 41 point font. You can go up to 43 if you think a song is too small. Really, you just don't want it to be too big and looking like overly huge. And we have a stroke, which kind of gives an outline to this white text, and then a shadow. And that kind of helps it pop away from the background to give some depth so it's easier to read. And then the last thing we do with the slides is make sure that we have no more than 4 lines of text per slide. And the reasoning for that is because we have the stream, and the stream is not the best system that we have. And so we want to make sure that we're not putting too much on one thing because it is in lower thirds and is a much smaller compacted area. So here we have the song Better Than Life. So this is a perfect example of what we could do. Go to Better Than Life, hit edit. I'll just delete this for now so it's out of the way. And so here we have a song that with our theme, the last word here doesn't quite fit. And then because of that, it extends this a little too much. So what should we do? What I like to do is I like to duplicate the slide, and then I'll work on one half on the top part. So I'll just get rid of the second half on one, and on the other part, I'll get rid of the first half. So I'm essentially splitting them into two. And then I don't like to have these one little words at the end of it. So better than the sound. And then you want to, if you know the song, you want to find a natural pause in the song. Take that down, capitalize that. And so you have 3 lines here. Better than the biggest. Again, do the same thing here. Dreams of my heart. And that's just the start. So now we have an even 3 and 3 for that split. And if we look at the rest of the song, that's 4 lines, 2, 4 lines, 2. And so this song is good. So now let's look at the rest of the set. Ooh, so here's a new one. Our new song that we just imported has way more than 4 per each. So again, you go to edit, duplicate it. Ooh, I deleted it. So you can either go up here to edit, undo, or you just hit Command Z. There it is. I want to duplicate it. I want to take 1 half, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is an easy one to do. Delete the second half on that one. Delete the first half on this one. And we've just split it into 2 slides. And we're going to do the same thing throughout all of these. I'm not going to do it in this video for you, but that's what you would do on a Sunday morning to make sure that you have no more than 4 lines of text. You can get away with 5, but we really want to stick with 4 and make everything look the same throughout. And so that's font, size, outline, 4 lines per slide. The last thing we're going to talk about is the CCLI copyright information. And so CCLI is a service that we use that makes us legally able to share these lyrics, and it provides the right information we need to display so that we're not going to get copyright infringement things or get charged for things when we're streaming. And so here I'm going to put that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to all the screens here. So you can see what's happening on the projector, and then you can see what's happening in OBS. And I'll go ahead and why not just put a nice little background on for you guys as well. So you can really see which one's which. Oh, and look, my looks are the wrong way. So go back to the default look, and this is how it should be going on a typical Sunday morning. Now this is set when I get to my editor. Over here in presentation, you'll see the CCLI information, and this is the copyright information, and it's set to display copyright. By default, our information displays on the last slide of the song, and legally we only have to just kind of put that up for just a second and let people see. Now, since it's on the last slide of the song, when I get there, as you can see on the ProPresenter feed, or on both of these, there's quite a lot of information there, and it's overlapping all the lyrics. So there's 2 things we can do. The first is we don't need all of this information. Really, all we need legally is the CCLI number and the name of the song. You don't have to have any of the rest of it. So we simplify it greatly. And the next thing we do is we come in here and we just add another slide. And there's 2 ways that you can do that. You can hit this plus button here and add a new slide, or you can come back to editor, hit the plus button here and add a new slide. So there I've just added 2 new slides. I'm going to delete this one. And now when I'm going through the song, I'm going to go through the song as normal. And when I get to the very end of the song and I know the song is finishing, I'll click on it, they'll sing the last, "This is my song for you," and then I hit the last slide for just a second. It's up and running. That's the information we need to do. And then we move on to our next song. So we put a background and we move on to the next song. And so you do the next song, same thing as well. And when that song finishes, you just display the last one as well. And so this one's already been edited, so it just has the copyright information, but we really need the name of the song as well in that one. And so you make sure you do that in the editor. So now we've got our font, size, outline, 4 lines per slide, and then making sure you have a blank slide on the end of every one to display the CCLI copyright information. One thing I did forget to mention is that you can also quick edit these slides as well. So if you're in the middle of a song and you realize that one word is misspelled, you can right click and go to quick edit. It allows you to make the edit, click out of it, and you're good to go without ever changing what's on the screen. And so the last thing we're going to talk about is backgrounds. And this is where you get to have all of your creative expressivity, all of your creative freedom is in backgrounds. And so we have a ton of moving backgrounds. We also have a lot of still backgrounds. For some reason, we pretty much always use moving backgrounds, but there are some constraints still with that. And so I'll show you how to add a new background and how to manipulate it to change it to fit what you're feeling. And so I'll just pick one that I know is kind of a little distracting. How fast is that? Nope, I thought that was much faster. There we go. This is a good one. So I'll click this, drag it to the beginning of the song, get it going. I can get rid of the media bin now. And so, again, this is what we have going on our projector. You can see it there on the top. And now when I put words over it, this is a very good background. It's nice, it's pretty, it's pleasant. However, it's moving just a little bit too fast. And there's other backgrounds that move faster than this. And for some people, this can cause them to have a little bit of motion sickness or just be a distraction from the words, and they're not going to be able to read it that well. Especially when the bright part of this video comes over, it could be hard to read some of those white words on that. So we can just edit this background to be a little easier to read. So you go to, sorry, I'm forgetting where it's at. You right click on it and you go to Inspector. Now, this is where all the settings live for this background. So the first thing we want to do is we want to slow it down. So we go to Properties here, we go to Play Rate, and we're going to slow it down to 60% play rate. And so you click out of that, you click the background again, and now you can see that it's moving much slower, and that's much better. And one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to move the play rate down so much, so let's go down to 30%, so much that you see the frames start to skip. So here, hopefully you can see in this recording, the frames are kind of jittery, and that can be a distraction as well. So you don't want to go too slow, and you don't want to go too fast. You want to make sure you have a good in-between. So here, going back up to 60%, that seemed to be fine. Click it again to refresh it, and it's going much slower. The next thing you can do in Inspector is you can add effects. And so the two that I always like to add are a color adjustment and then a blur. And what that does is the blur just blurs it just a little bit more, and you can see it here in this metal screen. And the blur is good because sometimes backgrounds have too many harsh edges and it makes it hard to read the words. So by blurring it just a little bit extra, it makes it a lot easier to read the words. And the second thing in effects is the color adjust. And this is where you can really have a lot of expression. You know, you think of the song, you think of the lyrics, how does it make you feel? And you know what? I think this one is really more of a green kind of song. I like that green color to fit it. And I want that to be a more vibrant green. And then you also want to make sure on some of these backgrounds that the legibility of the words isn't being affected. So you can change the brightness and contrast. And so you can really sit there and play around with these for a long time. And so this is now our finished product, when the original was this one down here. And that is a huge difference. It's going fast, it's hard to read at some points, and now we're doing it in a different color, slower and easier to read because it's blurred as well. And so that's where you can spend the majority of your time to get creative and be part of the worship and really, pray and think about, like, what is the song saying? What is the color? How do I want to express? What is the movement of the background? And add it into the worship to help other people. And you are also creatively expressing yourself in worship as well. And that's pretty much it for ProPresenter. The very final thing that I'm going to talk about is making sure that your looks are always correct. Now remember, we talked at the beginning of ProPresenter, how do we get two different things? I'll come back here. How do we get two different things to show on this screen and this screen but have one controller? And remember, that's with looks. But if you're not on top of your looks, you can forget that you have a certain look on, and then when you move on to the next portion of the service, your looks are all off. So going back to ProPresenter, we're going to start off with our example playlist, and we have the beginning announcements, the countdown. So I'm going to click on it, and if you notice, everything just goes correctly. And that's because I have it all preset as an action on the slide. And then when I click on the slide, there's 5 seconds, and it loops back over and over and over again. Now, the way I got to do this is by right-clicking on your background, and you add actions. So, just as an example, here we'll add a background to the song. If the countdown completes, and we're moving on to the next portion of the service, and we're starting a song, the countdown finished, you can't simply just click on this background and then move on, because there's still a prop that's still up, and the background is still going, and it's just not working because you don't have the right look. So one thing you could do is, before you move on to the next portion, you can manually clear everything. You can go up here, go to the look, click on the right look that you want, then move on to the background, then move on to the lyrics. But that takes a lot of time, and often, more than not, you're not going to have that time. So again, you can add an action to automate it for you. So to add an action, you right click on it, and you go down here to add an action. Now the very first action you want to add every time is to clear everything. You want to clear everything that was just up here. Clear it all. So you want to clear it all. And then your second action is you want to add an audience look. So what are we doing in this portion of the service? We're doing the default look because we're going through songs. So default. There you go. And now when you move from your countdown to this next portion, you click on the background, it changes everything, and now everything is the way as it should be. You can also do this for the next portion. So say there's a teaching later on. You may not have a background on the teaching. So here I have a teaching from one of Mitch's. You may not have a background to select first because you want a black background. Or if it's a pre-recorded teaching or something like that, you may want it to look different. If you need to add a different look for this, again, you go to action. You go to clear all first, and then add a second action, and you want to add the correct look to it. And so it's a good habit to get into, automating your actions on every single thing. So not just the first song, but maybe the second song or the third song or the fourth song, and then adding an action to your teaching portion or to your videos or whatever you do. Automate actions, because things can change at any moment during a service. You might think, and the band agreed, this was supposed to be the first song of a service. But after they talked about it and last minute they made a quick decision, hey, we're going to do this. And now it's the second song. And if you didn't have your actions there, well, you're out of luck. So that's why it's a good thing to put your actions on all of them. Also, at the end of a service, say they finish a teaching, you have to go back into a song if they have an altar call or something. If you didn't have that the action set on that specific song, you might forget and your look is going to be off. So it is very important to go in and add actions to your looks. So that's everything for the Media Team Training Series. Just remember that you are part of the worship team. This isn't supposed to be a strict duty or job. Like, you are having an active service and you are actively involved in worship. And so you have the creative freedom to do the backgrounds however you want, to express yourself and be part of worship. The second thing is, this is a Mac. If you're not used to a Mac, please spend time on the computer. Go spend some time there. Get used to the mouse. Get used to how everything functions. And then with ProPresenter, it's pretty simple for getting things in. We're going to start moving to the new Planning Center import method. We'll get everything in all at once. And then, yeah, just go back to this video. I know it was a lot of things to do, but if you saw something and you thought I went over it too quickly, just pause, go back, watch it over again. If you go in on a Sunday and you're shadowing and you're like, oh, how did he do that? How did he do that? Go back to this video, reference it, pause, and rewatch some of these sections. I don't expect anybody to watch this for one time and have it all set and have it all memorized. But that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you know how to contact me. For all the passwords for the computers, just let me know when you're ready and I'll get those passwords to you. The very last thing that I need to go over, and I'm saving to the very end, is we do have a streaming computer, and the reason I'm going to the end is because I have to move everything for this and change everything. And that's talking about OBS. So there's only one thing you have to do on the OBS computer. So this is when it's going to get a little weird. So this is OBS running on my computer, and that's what I'm using to record. But on the OBS computer at Dwelling Place, it's going to be very simple. You're going to log in. There's only going to be two things. There's going to be a camera and ProPresenter. You want to make sure that both of them are visible. And then after you turn on OBS, you just want to go over here and click on Start Streaming. Now everything goes from ProPresenter and sends it to OBS, but OBS needs to start streaming in order to send that to the internet, which connects with our service, which then broadcasts it. If you don't hit start streaming, then it won't get sent to YouTube and everything else we do. So that's the very last step that you have to do on a Sunday morning. And then of course, whenever you're done, on a Sunday morning, you turn off the projector, you turn off the computers, and you're good to go. And so yeah, again, if you have any questions, you know how to contact me, and please watch this video over and over again so you know how to do things. Thanks.